Hi there. So recently it has been a very stressful few weeks and I haven't really been posting as much as I plan to, simply because I just haven't been reading as much as I hoped to be reading. So I thought to kind of ease back into my routine of reading and posting, I would give you a little bit of a book haul. I have managed to collect a fair few books over the past, I would say 5-6 months. This year I made a pledge to myself that I wouldn't buy as many books as I used to. I simply have too many and I should read what I have. So these I have collected over the past 6 months and they all kind of majority have a unifying theme and you'll see why. But let's get into this book haul. The first book I purchased to break my book buying ban was one of my most anticipated reads for the year, and that is Ocean Vuong's new fiction book, The Emperor of Gladness. I actually kind of regret purchasing this when I did. I purchased this, I pre-ordered it and it came to me the day it came out, but I haven't read it yet, and that was a fair few months ago. The reason being, this seems like a very summery kind of book. It is set in the season of summer, and I am living in Australia and we are about to hit spring, so I thought, why not wait until the perfect time? So this is still on my TBR, but I am very excited. Ocean Vuong is a poet and writer, teacher, and just inspiration to my creative life, and I love every single word he has ever written. The next set of books, these I purchased from my local op shop, which is a thrift store in America, and these were all very well loved. So there's a unifying theme with these books that I purchased. I recently found the Australian literature section of my local op shop, and I realized a little while ago that I really don't read a lot of Australian fiction. I mean, I read a fair few books. Out of the 100 books I read a year, I would say 10 are written by Australian authors, and that's simply not enough. I need to read my country's writers, and oftentimes Australian writing is incredibly detailed and urban and warm, and I decided to purchase some Australian books. So I'll start off with a non-fiction book, and that is Australian Pond and Stream Life. I have recently gotten a newfound love for bugs and insects, and I find them fascinating and misunderstood. So I purchased this just to kind of read whenever I want. The next book I got is Classic Australian Short Stories. This is just a compilation of a few classic Australian short stories. This is an anthology and it is from the late 19th to early 20th century, and it includes some of the most prolific and famous Australian authors of all time, including Mr. Banjo Paterson. I read Banjo Paterson's poems I think 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed his writing, so I'm very excited to get to this. The next book I got is another Australian classic, and that is A Fortunate Life by A.B. Facey. This is about a man's life. I'm unsure if it's a memoir or if it's fiction. Oh, it's autobiography. So this is actually about A.B. Facey's life. Oh, that's really interesting. The reason I say it's interesting is because this book is about a young boy. His father dies when he's 2, and then his mother abandons him. He gets brought up by his grandmother until he's 8 years old, and then he has to set out on the world on his own, and he works labor jobs for the rest of his life. He survives the war, and it just seems like a very heart-wrenching coming-of-age novel set in the Australian outback. So this is definitely high on my priority list to read. I think that this is one of those Australian classics that everyone has read apart from me. So I'm looking forward to it. And the last Australian classic that I got is House of Trees by Chester Eagle. I don't really know much about this book apart from it says Gippsland's legends, places and people brought to life. This is an account of a rural teen's life growing up in Gippsland, Snowy River and the outback. I don't really know much if you couldn't gather from that description, but I am really excited to give this a go. I thought that the cover was really pretty. It is called House of Trees, and I love the forest and I love Gippsland Forest, so I think this would be really interesting to read. I would love to actually go to where some of this is located and read it there. I feel like that'll really enhance the experience, but once again, I don't really know much about it. Another book I got secondhand, but not Australian literature this time, is Edith Wharton, The Reef. This is about a widow who lives in France. I think it's France. Yeah, she lives in France and she renews her relationship with a diplomat. I have been slowly collecting more and more of Edith Wharton's books, and I am quickly realizing that I've read nothing, yet I keep buying more of her books. So I'm really hoping I like her writing, because I've got like 7 of her books on my TBR. Let's hope. Another secondhand book I got is Plato, the Symposium. I actually am currently reading this book at the moment. I am 50 pages in. I found this little slip of paper, and I think the person that ordered this book kept the slip of paper in there, and I'm using it as a bookmark. It kind of enhances the experience, I think. But I am loving this at the moment. I'm making my way through Plato's works, and this so far has been the most gripping, the most relatable for me, and this has been the most interesting for me, I would say. This is 7 philosophers sitting at a table, drinking together and talking about the philosophy of love, beauty, where it originated, what it means for man, and it's surprisingly romantic so far, the conversations that are being had. I have dog-eared a fair few pages and I'm really enjoying this. The next book I got is Walking Sydney by Belinda Castles. This was actually very kindly sent to me by New South Publishers. I got an email from them. I often get PR emails with different books, and I don't often reach out saying I want them anymore, just because I'm trying not to get too many books. But this came into my inbox and it sounded so intriguing that I had to request it. This is a combination of a handful of writers walk around their hometowns and they talk about the nature, the suburbs, the harbours, and they talk about the natural landscape of the city that they live in. And it sounded so intriguing, and I'm really excited to give this a read. I think writers talking about the environments where they are inspired is inspiring in itself, and I am really, really interested in reading this. The next 5 books I purchased purely because of a specific challenge I put to myself every year, and this challenge is something that I've been doing for a little while, and this challenge is to read the entire Booker Prize long list so I can predict the shortlist. This has led me to reading some incredible books, and I have finished only one so far of the 5 that I've purchased, and that is Endling by Maria Riva. This was an incredible book. It is about a woman scientist who is kind of nomadic, and she's breeding together different endangered snail species to kind of save that specific species. She's also part of this weird romance getaway tour where Western men come to Ukraine to marry women that are free of the feminist ways of Western women. And it's very odd. It takes the most drastic turn halfway through and turns kind of metafictional. Maria Riva is an absolute genius with her symbolism. The word Endling means the last of a species. Halfway through this book, the war in Ukraine breaks out. It becomes very metafictional, and it's just, yeah, incredible. I can't begin to tell you how incredible this is. And the more I researched into this book, the more I kind of delved into the words that Maria wrote, I realized how incredibly deep and symbolic this is. It's an incredible book, and I've really started off this Booker Prize long list with an absolute banger. The rest of the books that I got was Flesh by David Sasley. This is about a young boy who has a weird relationship with his neighbor who is older next door. It seems kind of odd and intense and deep, but I'm looking forward to that. Flashlight by Susan Chow. This is about identity, family. A young girl gets washed up on the sea, and that's all I know. Universality by Natasha Brown. This is a expose in which a journalist goes to investigate a crime that has happened. It kind of seems like a conversational book, kind of little. And the last book is Audition by Katie Kitamura. This book is about 2 people who meet for lunch. One is an older woman and one is a young boy, and they have a conversation and they talk about love, friendship, and things get unraveled. So yeah, those were all of the books that I purchased recently over the past 6 months. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I have had a very hectic 2 weeks, and I am only just now being able to take a breath and finally get back to my hobbies and read. So I hope you bear with me. I really want to read as much as I can and be creative and film as much as possible and share it with you if you'd like. So yeah, thank you for watching.